So, in talking about other hot messes, um, uh, this week, Warner Brothers caused a bit of a hot mess, right? When they decided, look, I could go through sort of like you know, the technical ways of talking about this, but really, long story short, they basically said, "Fuck theaters. We're, well, we'll just do the shit on our own." Is essentially what the WB said. So basically, they announced that they're going to be releasing basically their entire slate for 2021, right? All their movies that they're going to put out in 2021, all the new movies. They're essentially going to put out on HBO Max, which is devastating to theaters, right? Because they've been waiting this entire time. Like, when can we open back up? And what's been sort of like their kind of one saving grace is that when they decide to open back up, because I don't think I need to like rehash it for everybody, but it's obviously we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. So, it's made it tough to get out to the theaters. That if there's one thing you could probably cross off your list that you probably don't need to do, that is going to the theaters, right? In the middle of a pandemic. But, you know, as they sort of are trying to get back into their one saving grace has been, hey, we're going to have a shit ton of movies to show you once we get back, into the fold of things. That's what the theaters are saying. Well, not so fast, says Warner Brothers, more specifically HBO. And long story short, they're all under the banner of AT&T. Like, I fucking hate how there's like always like 18 different fucking layers and you gotta like trace it back to like, okay, who the fuck is actually in charge here? But AT&T technically owned Warner Media, or I guess WB, Warner Brothers, and thus HBO and HBO Max. Okay, so yeah. What are your quick thoughts about WB sort of announcing that they're going to put out all their movies on HBO Max?
It was interesting timing because, and like obviously you and me, we follow politics quite a bit, and getting word that, all right, hey, we're going to have hopefully another stimulus package, but we're not going to help people who could potentially maybe go to theaters with some of the money if they had it, and there's going to be some small business help, not much for huge corporations. And then you're hearing, oh well, this isn't going to happen at all, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, HBO, forget this. Like, we're going to go ahead and just send everything to the streaming giants, or WB I should say, to the streaming giants, and just fuck figuring out all the logistics right now with theaters, and hoping and praying that people come out and people don't get sick, and potential lawsuits that'll come out from this. Like, when I was reading some of the headlines for this announcement, like, people who watch a lot of films, at least in my circles, were super happy about this, because right now nobody, at least again in my circles, wants to go out, wants to risk the Rona to go see Dune, or Michael, or Space Jam, or
I might have to risk some things in order to go see.
Nah, Dune looks cool. Dune looks cool, but I'm still not risking the Rona. But I'm certainly not going to see a new Legacy Space Jam. Like, that's not going to happen. I can see LeBron goofing around perfectly fine on YouTube videos on the court. Like
Bron.
Nah. Yeah. But I like this, that they're taking the initiative to just go ahead and say, hey, we're going to throw in the towel right now with theaters. We're just going to go to the streaming giants. I guarantee you that the next set of productions that, WB ends up doing will probably be much lower scaled. They might be, in-house productions where they're not sending out, to contract out work to different people. And, we might just be getting some shit for a little while until this whole pandemic is over. And then, we can focus on some bigger budget films and get the stars and the directors all on board. But I think this is the right move for them to make, because why wouldn't you? Who's benefiting right now? It's the streaming giants who are benefiting right now. Like, why are you trying to compete in a field that is just non-existent right now? Like, if if all you were doing was opening up theaters, or I'm sorry, your films in theaters in like New Zealand, where they're walking around without masks because there's just no coronavirus there, or is it just so limited, then sure, go ahead, put it in New Zealand, let people go waste their money over there. But like here in the US and the rest of the world where, the Rona is raging wildly, like, no, like figure out a new game plan. You've said this many times before, like, this is the future. Stop trying to prevent the future from happening. Push all your stuff to the streaming giants, make whatever deal you can, recoup some money, and then re-strategize for the next year or 2 years while we're still going through this. Hopefully we get through it. And then, if theaters are still around, then, put it out in theaters. But who the hell knows what's going to happen next year? I mean, how many of these theater chains are going to be around?
Yeah. So look, I don't want to call us here on the podcast, I don't want to call us like Nostradamus, right? Like that's not what I'm here.
We're visionaries.
We indeed are visionaries, because I think we very specifically predicted this entire scenario while everybody else was saying, oh my God, we're holding out hope that theaters are going to stay open and this and that. And just wait till, we get into like the fourth quarter of 2021 or 2020. And then, hopefully in the first quarter of 2021, we'll be back in business. Nah, it was always bullshit, right? Like that was always bullshit. Like you can go back to fucking, whatever episode that we've been talking about this topic on, like it was always a fucking pipe dream to think like, because in my mind, it was always, what was going to be the difference? Like whether we're talking about, first it was like, okay, like let's just get to like June, right? Like, or let's just get to July. And then it was like, okay, well, like let's get to September, August, then it was like, okay, like maybe in December. Well, and it's just like, well, in this entire scenario, what the fuck's changing with the pandemic? Like there's nothing changing. In fact, it will most likely get worse, as we obviously approach like winter. So in my mind, it was always like, yeah, like, no, we need to think about fucking like significant changes in the strategy here, right? And this kind of goes back to why I think, look, I love going to movie theaters, and I think that there are some, you say in your circles, everybody's kind of ecstatic about this. There's a lot of people out there who are like, fuck, this sucks, right? Because for one, there are a lot of people who work for movie theater chains, through all sort of phases of it, right? Like whether you're talking about, in their corporate offices, or if you're talking about literally at each sort of movie theater. So my heart goes out to a lot of those people, because that sucks for them, right? But to me, this has been a colossal, forget the pandemic for a moment. This has been a colossal failure on the movie theaters side of trying to adapt to the changing market. Like it's like the change between, it's like saying like, oh, like instead of fuck this thing called TV sets, fuck them, like why would we? No, we're not going to adapt content for them. Fuck that. And then just be like, no, we're just going to keep showing movies in theaters, but it completely ignored, TVs. That's how preposterous it's been to me, because it's like, even before the pandemic, why wouldn't you see what's coming up the pike with fucking streaming, seeing that people just love the ease of just watching shit at home, right? Like, say what you will about, formatting. And I know if Christopher Nolan was listening to this, he'd have a stroke right now. But say what you will about all that, people just love convenience, right? I love convenience. I love sitting down. There are certain movies where I gotta get up out of my seat and I gotta go to the theater to go see. Yeah. But those are only certain movies. I don't need to see every fucking movie in theaters, and I have to wait 3 months until it comes out on fucking whatever platforms and rental platforms in order to watch them. So there are people who are hurt by this, and but again, I think ultimately the blame goes on the theaters themselves, because they never tried to adapt. They just said, no, we have our release windows, where we just have movies in theaters, and then after 2-3 months, then okay, they go out, but it's just like there's no reason for that other than the fact that they made it so. Like there's never like what agreement did they have with customers where they were like, okay, what do you guys like? And it's like, yeah, no, we definitely wanted it in theaters for 3 months before you put it out on rental platforms, or VOD. And it's like, yeah, we're on board for that. No, nothing ever indicated that. It was just, that's just how it's always been. So that's just the way that they kept it. So I will say that let's just talk a little bit more about this whole HBO Max thing. So each movie will actually appear on HBO Max for only 1 month before it leaves HBO Max. At which point the film will cycle through the usual release window, leaving theaters when interest is run out and heading to iTunes, DVD points, yada yada, and then obviously back to HBO Max at some point in time. Warner movies would continue to have a traditional theatrical release outside of the US, where HBO Max doesn't actually currently exist. And one other fucked up thing that they actually did was just they didn't tell their partners. So this actually reminds me, I don't know if you remember when, not to get too political, but remember when Trump pulled out of Syria, and it was just like,
Yeah.
well, okay, we're not kind of hating on your, at least the sane people aren't really hating on the fact that you're getting out of Syria. It's that you did it so fucking abruptly and you didn't tell anybody. And it's just like, well, now you're just causing a fucking panic for no reason other than you just fucking wanted to do it,
And you're leaving our Kurdish allies to die.
Exactly, right? Like, so instead of like preparing people and like making sure everybody's got all their ducks in a row, you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna drop this shit on you, which is bullshit, so I don't really much agree. I agree with the overall strategy from them, but come on, just fucking tell people what you're fucking doing and you save everybody a lot of fucking headache. But maybe, I don't know, for some other reasons they maybe they knew that they were going to get a pretty significant backlash from this, so maybe that's why they didn't tell everybody.
It's the most American thing ever. It's what benefits me and how quickly can I get this done. That's all it was. It was them deciding, hey, this is us, not the show. This is us as a company. We are going to do this. Fuck everything else. We're just going to do it. And whatever the fallback is later on, so be it. If people want to watch our movies, they'll go to these streaming platforms. We're going to make some money. If not, they can wait 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. And then, we'll see if iTunes, gets us a little bit of money. Fuck everybody else. Who cares about AMC? I know Lorraine's stock is dropping, but
yeah, he's regretting that massively right now. Here's what I will say though: it's just not like again, I don't dog the move, right? Because it's just, like this is where this was headed, right? And I knew that what I was waiting for the entire time was one big movie, and everybody points to Wonder Woman. I don't think it was Wonder Woman that started this sort of like cascade. It was Mulan. As soon as Mulan headed to Disney Plus, it was a wrap. That's a wrap, because that's a huge fucking movie. And we can have arguments about like, okay, well, if having Mulan for $30 on Disney TV Plus, whatever the fuck it's called, it's called Disney TV Plus, right? I think that's the name. Having it for $30 is kind of bullshit, but that argument aside, as soon as I saw it hit Disney Plus, I was like, yep, no, that's a wrap, because and with that combined with the fact that this coronavirus was never like, it at no point was like, all right, we're like in the safe zone now where everybody can like get out. It was never really at that point. It was just like, okay, like the shit that we started to work a bit, and then everybody's like, all right, we're good now, and then they headed back out, and now we're in the same fucking problem. And so look, I don't malign Warner Brother or WB from doing this move, because it's kind of like this is the natural progression of things. And it's like, what do you fucking want them to do? Just to sit on fucking all of these movies for another 2 years? Like, no. Like, we got to ship this shit out. We got other shit to make, and I know that they're probably going to take a bit of a loss in terms of obviously foregoing the actual theater money. But honestly, was that money even going to be there in the first place? Like, are people really going to go out to theaters like that once assuming that a vaccine comes our way, and it's going to be like 2-3 years before anything can even that's resembling normal take place, right? Like, it's going to be at least 2 to 3 years, right? That's to say, if people ever even go back to theaters like that, maybe they just fucking stay inside because they realize, instead of spending $8,000 at a movie theater, maybe I could just stay home and not do that. So I don't know. For everybody who's like crying and saying, oh my God, this is the death of movie theaters, I don't think so. I think, look, you heard it here first. I feel like what's going to happen is they lifted those Paramount decrees. And as soon as I saw them lift those Paramount decrees, which basically, to make a long story short, made it so that movie theaters can, or that studios can now own movie theaters, that they can have the entire sort of system, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, the Paramount agrees where that they separate them, that no studio can actually own, you know, all aspects of the movie process. But since they essentially lifted those decrees, well, now that's going to make it possible. And what I think is going to happen is that somebody is going to make that move to buy one of these failing theater chains, right? Whether it's AMC, whether it's Cinemark, whatever it is. And I think the candidate, I don't think it's going to be Disney, right? Although I think their stock is doing pretty well right now because of Disney Plus. But because of where they are at financially with their theme parks, I think they're going to be treading water for quite a while. Who I think it actually is either going to be Amazon or Apple, because both want and need to make a big splash in the movie theater or in the movie business. And both are obviously in it, but both need to, like, you know, make a move to like try to even get close to Netflix, right? And so what better way would there be other than to buy, a movie theater chain, you know?
Yeah.
And what other companies are in a better position to do that than fucking Amazon and Apple? Or they're both like, what pandemic? What are you guys talking about? Everything's going great over here, swimmingly. So I think you heard it here first. That's exactly what's going to happen. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're stupid.
Yeah, keep in mind, just to kind of like put a button on this, especially before the Paramount decree, movie theaters, especially, you know, franchise ones, privately owned ones, which was the majority of movie theaters, the owners of those theaters, you pay $8, $12, $15 for a movie ticket. You know, they were recouping maybe $1 or $2 on that actual ticket. They weren't making money off that ticket. You know, they're making money off of all the concessions and everything else. You know, all of the popcorns, which, you know, are $12 themselves, all the sodas and everything. And like, you know, you're telling me I'm gonna go spend $15 on a ticket, then spend $15 on a small soda and, you know, popcorn. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So to think that theaters were just going to be around and going to be able to come back, like, no, logistically it made no sense, you know, which then, to your point, yeah, why wouldn't an Amazon or an Apple come in, buy the shit out? Amazon wouldn't just make all the logical sense in the world. They could do so much with their actual movie theaters, big buildings. They'll have Amazon hubs in there. There'll be Amazon lockers in there. Like, you're going to see Tenet? All right, you need that new Tenet shirt? Pick it up at the Amazon locker at the theater that you're going to be at. You want some Sour Patch Kids gummies that go along with that? We got that for you too. It'll be waiting for you. Like, it would make all the sense in the world.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it, because I think that then that allows like a lot of fuckery as far as like what movies get shown where. But I think that's going to be like the natural sort of like evolution of things. Like that's the only way. For one, I personally, I think that's the only way movie theaters really like have like any enduring life, is if somebody does come in and buy them up with the specific purpose of like, hey, we're basically going to take over the the schedule in terms of what we're actually going to show in theaters. But yeah. Let us know what you think in the comment section below about the Warner Brothers move here. Do you think it's detrimental to the whole movie business, or do you think it's something that's just kind of like a natural sort of progression and just where we're at right now? Either way, let us know.